Hello, everyone, and welcome to Think Like a Dog podcast, hosted by Andreia and Millie Travis. In this podcast, we discuss how to build the best relationship with your dog. From rescues to reactivity, we'll cover it all. Welcome back to Think Like a Dog podcast. And today we are on episode 12. We're here with Connor, and we're going to do the different types of daycares. So we're going to talk about what to look for in daycares, red flags, green flags, how to look for a daycare in your area. So with daycares for us, I talk about this all the time, how we got lucky to find you guys, but we did because I didn't really have an opportunity to try and error a lot with our dogs, So we found Mirror Image, and thankfully you guys have structured day camps where they're just learning and training all day. And I take them once a week, and those dogs, they are exhausted after that one day. I mean, when I bring them home, they get home at about 6:00, they get their dinner, they're knocked out until the next day. Like, they don't want anything to do with any kind of activity because they're constantly learning throughout the day camp.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that most people are like, there's different types of play cares. Like, what? Yeah, and so just like a lot of things with dog training, it's more of a common theme of ignorance that people just don't know any better and figure, hey, give my dog something fun and exciting to do. Why not? And what can be the repercussions? Just like dog parks. It's very similar. So
yeah. And I think that people do dog parks and day camps or daycares or play cares, whatever you want to call them, because the goal is to get the dog tired. But with us, that's not the goal, or at least not the only goal. It would be nice if everybody was, exhausted and fulfilled at the end of the day. But we firmly believe that your dog, and we talked about this in the exercise episode, that the only way there's more ways to well behave than through exhaustion, and that shouldn't be your go-to. I think with a lot of play cares, people look at it and like, oh my God, look, everyone's like having a great time. Everyone's running around and look at all these dogs in the sunshine, playing with each other and having the best time, which is great for a lot of dogs. But, there are plenty of dogs that can do really, really well in that environment. But a lot of dogs cannot. Most of our pack, I think, either has been kicked out by another daycare or would be absolutely kicked out by another daycare. There's very few of our dogs that could just go to any daycare.
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the excitement versus arousal, right? That people, they see these dogs wagging tails, open mouths, panting, all that. And they're like, look, it's a happy dog. Whereas, that just like we say in all of our episodes, they're all individuals. So they respond to stress differently. And that, doesn't always mean excitement.
And excitement is one of my favorite things to tell people, because I think it's a misconception. I think for dog owners, excitement does not equal happiness in a dog. It doesn't even equal happiness in a person. I could be excited about something, but that I could also be really nervous. I could also be, overly excited about it or pinning up too much of my hopes on it. But that's not happiness. And I think what dogs look for more is contentment, not happiness, not excitement, not arousal. And there's a lot of daycares that focus on just partying all the time. And a lot, you can tell when some of our dogs come from either the daycare or dog park world, they walk in there expecting to party. And they come to us thinking, okay, that other dog equals excitement because this is the association that has been built over time. And then they look to us and they're like, wait a second, you're not letting me play, right? What's going on? And obviously it's not that we don't let our dogs play. It's just we take our time getting to know them and making sure that if we put any amount of dogs together, we are focusing on safety and making sure that we've got the ability to control excitement and the relevancy with all of these dogs before we just are like, okay, bye, here you go.
Yeah.
Making sure they're ready and still taking direction in those high stimulation environments.
Because
it's hard.
We take dogs with severe issues in our day camp program.
One of the daycares that I was looking into for Max, that they seem wonderful. they have a big open space. Dogs seem to always have fun. They're always active. They're always running around in open areas. So it looked awesome. I wanted to get Max in there at a point where we were out of town. My mom had the dog. So I was trying to get some load off of her because she had, little dogs, Kane, Max. So it was a lot going on for her, and she was, working. So I was looking into this daycare, and that was when Max was like super hyperactive already. Like he wanted to run. He wanted to be active. She had to play fetch with him all the time or else she couldn't handle him in the crate. So we were creating like this athlete dog, like we talked about. And if I had sent him to an environment where they were just feeding more and more of that, he would be later labeled as like an anxious dog that can't stay still, that would be barking at us all the time. And when he learned how to have structured play and that he can turn his brain off, he knows, when to play at the right way, how to introduce himself to other dogs. He was taught that because you guys were on top of him in day camp, making sure that he was making the right decisions, guiding him to make the right decisions, setting him up for success. Now Max is being used as an example on his sessions.
One of our calmest dogs that we have out there.
Max, our dog that I remember so our groomer, because we have doodles, they need like to get their haircuts pretty constantly. So our groomer, when I found her for Poochie and Louie, our little dogs, I talked to her about Max, but she had a really busy schedule. So I was like, yeah, I don't think, you're just going to work out for Max. I get it. Like, he's really hard. He's really difficult. I mean, he doesn't stay still. I said all these things about Max. So in her head, she's like, what's wrong with this dog? Like, is this a dog or a dinosaur that you have? Like, what is going on? So I really made him seem like a really crazy dog that can't stay still. He would be barking at her. Like, don't even worry about it whenever you have time. So months later, when Max was already going to day camp, he's got it. She found a spot in her schedule to take a larger dog. So I'm like, can you please take Max? Because, he needed to get that haircut. And when she worked with him, she's like, Max is awesome. He's super easy and he's great. And I'm like, yeah, we've been doing training sessions, so he's improved a lot. She's like, yeah, from what you told me before, like that's not the same dog.
It was actually a dog and not a T-Rex.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but that's just from one day at a structured day camp that he spent a week for the last few months. It has helped him understand what play is, and it didn't feed that energy, that negative energy that we were trying to correct, that he was, trying to claim other dogs, that he was trying, he used to try to claim Kane all the time. Kane would get pissed. Yeah. Max would try to jump on Kane and hump him every time that they were outside. And Kane would get so mad that would growl and correct him. So that was Max before a structured day camp.
And to kind of go into the difference of what we're talking about with a structured day camp and daycares that you probably are more used to and are more common around the United States and wherever. We used to work for a play care that had 50 dogs every day. And now we have probably top out at 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just the main difference, I would say, is the energy level and the overall intensity in the pack with the 50 dogs who we never really, the goal wasn't training at that.
We couldn't.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
there were two people out there with 50 dogs. So there was no training that we could even try to do.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about decision making a lot, of who's making the decision, and especially in a real life pack with multiple dogs, it's even more important than just one-on-one, right? Because there's so much energy involved. And with that many dogs, all we were doing all day is just saying no all day. Mm-hmm. And in reality, we're not providing any relief, any new information that's different or dealing with any issues at all. And it's really just playing chase, and the dogs were making the decisions ultimately in that pack. And we were just playing catch up all day. So the structured play care allows us to set that tone out of the gate every step of the way, making those decisions so that those dogs who don't respond to stress with excitement, so to speak, feel okay in their own skin and feel like they're able to trust us, if that makes sense.
I never it's hard because it's been a while since we worked at that daycare, and I was the manager there, and it was a struggle to be able to provide information to my team about the behavior of dogs, but not be able to actually work with these dogs because there were just so many of them. And I just felt like no matter which way I was going, I was never enough, right? It was never enough for my team. It was never enough for the dogs. There were always dogs that didn't get out, in enough time. But that's because it was looked at as all dogs are like, if the dog is dog friendly, the dog is dog friendly with every dog. And that's just not the case. But I forgot that feeling of, we spent the whole day telling those dogs no. I mean, the whole day. And I have not felt that since we opened up the center. Yes, there is a lot, in a very different way, a lot more work to what we do now. But I haven't, we tell them no, but it is not like we're not chasing the behavior. We're not just constantly on top of these dogs, micromanaging them in order to keep them safe. It's, we're doing a lot of prevention work. And I just completely forgot that feeling of being exhausted at the end of the day because all I did was tell dogs no the whole day.
And it's not frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Like you can feel the frustration on the dogs just as much as you feel the frustration in yourself that, hey, either this isn't working or which is probably more important in the dog training world, is this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. No, nothing in this feels good to me as a human that understands what's going on at all times. So I can't imagine, not having a clear understanding, from when they walked out into that yard and chaos ensued of how much stress that puts on that dog. And in reality, how much that probably hurt their progress more than it helped.
And that's not every dog, right? So, I look at it like this. My perfect vacation is going like to Asheville, where it's pretty quiet. There's mountains. It's not like a party scene, right? On my 21st birthday, I went to Applebee's, right? But Connor is going to New Orleans, right? So everybody has a different preference about what they enjoy. There are some people that really like to go out to bars and clubs. I'm not that person. I want to just hang out with a couple people in my house if I'm feeling social. Dogs are the same way. I look at like a 50, 60 dog day camp or your dog park on an average Saturday as a club environment, that at a club, you're going to see a lot of people at a high intensity level. You're going to see some fights. You're going to see some bad manners, but a lot of intensity, right? There are some dogs that doesn't really bother them. And in fact, they enjoy it and they can navigate that situation pretty well and pretty healthily. There are a lot of dogs that can't. But I think the reason that people think that their dog is the one, their dog reactive or dog selective dog is the one that is kind of the unique one or the exception to the rule is because you don't see those dogs out at the dog park. Your dog reactive dog most of the time stays home. And so it makes people think that all dogs should like all dogs. And that's just not the case. It's just not.
Yeah. Now with your day camp, what does like a typical day look like when they walk in? How does that start?
So definitely, just because we have it set up for success doesn't mean that dogs aren't going to come in with a whole heck of a lot of energy. So definitely draining energy is top priority, but not in a way that's ensuing chaos, right? So still making it structured, still making it as neutral as possible, as calm as possible, and as productive as possible. So whether that means treadmill, if just one-on-one work isn't, fulfilling enough for a dog, drain that energy a little more so we can focus on the other dogs, come back to them when they're a little bit, more dialed in with us and start from there. So this is why I love doing dogs, is because not one of our days are the same. They're never the same.
They're all different.
And they're not monotonous, and it's not just saying no all day, because that's not what dogs need. That's not what they want, right? So just, draining that energy first, and then making sure we're carrying that calm neutrality throughout the day, every step of the way, I'd say.
But it starts with when we get the dog from the owner. Yeah. So we'll walk up to the lobby and most of the time I'm the one that's getting the dog from the clients and bringing them back to the campground room. And I'm calm when I get that dog. I don't pull, I'm not pulled back to the campground room. And if I am, we do some leash drills before we even open that door. When we open that door, there's another gate. We walk in there. Yes, the dogs will come up to the gate because I think it's crazy if they wouldn't, come up to the gate. Everyone kind of sniffs for a little bit. And then when that sort of dies down, we walk in, but that dog stays on leash. We don't just, there's a very small amount of dogs that we can just open the door, or that we do open the door and just they're off leash. Not even my dog. I don't even do that. I mean, if I can make him not jump the gate, I've got my own problems. Then he's on leash and they get packed walked. They go, they get on the treadmill, they do place work. And then once the last dog drops off, we do an entire pack place. So, we only have so many place boards, and most of the time we don't have enough place boards for the amount of dogs that we have. Because if we did, the whole room would just be place boards. And we spend an hour asking our dogs to do nothing all together. And we take the highest energy dogs and ask them to do nothing, because most of the time our reactive dogs are actually our lowest energy dogs. So it's all of our hyper happy-go-lucky dogs that probably would get accepted to another daycare. Those are the ones that we try really hard to ask them to do nothing before we start giving them any sort of freedom. And that really puts us at lunchtime, and we repeat the rest of the day.
Yeah. And I would say the top priority with us is kind of that ability to take direction, right? So no matter whether it's socializing or just learning how to walk on a leash, that's taking direction. So not necessarily, we advertise it as socialization. That's definitely part of it. But if they're not able to take direction first, then socialization is going to be chaos, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that's how I think about it in my head, especially coming from a 50-dog play care where all we saw was chaos. It's definitely just a difference of what we're being intentional about and prioritizing.
Yeah, there's some huge core differences between structured day camp and regular like daycares and dog parks, and obviously dog parks. But the biggest ones are absolutely how we act with these dogs, what our expectations of these dogs are, and how we spend the day with them. I think another big one is how well we know the owners, or at least how much in contact we are with them. So, I mean, before, when we were at the other daycare, I don't think I would have recognized any of our owners. I mean, it was rare. Yeah. I just knew the dog because there were too many of them. I didn't know the owners' faces. I didn't know kind of what the dog was dealing with at home. A couple of them I did. But now, I mean, I know these dogs and I know these owners, or if I don't, one of you guys do because they're clients of yours. And we expect, and this is the biggest difference, we expect our clients to be reinforcing this stuff at their homes. And if they aren't, then they need to tell us that, and they need to give another dog a chance to come in. That's a big deal to us. If you're not reinforcing crate training at home, if you are not reinforcing leash walking, by your side, if you're not reinforcing all place work at home, then it's not fair to bring your dog to day camp and have your dog relearn this every single time they come in a pack of dogs, and not have that being reinforced at home. That puts stress on your dog, on top of there's another dog who is getting that stuff reinforced at home, and your dog just took that dog's spot. The second biggest core difference is we have such a small number of dogs, and we are not planning on raising it anywhere above, 25 tops, because we want to individually work with these dogs. It's the point for us. We want to make sure that we know what it is that dog needs to work on, have time to work on it, and be able to communicate that to the owner. Those are a couple of the huge differences.
Yeah. And with your structured day camp, you guys also do a color system, which I think is really awesome, because it tells the owner exactly what they need to know about that dog and their intensity level. And each one of our dogs are different in terms of color. Like Cinnamon started off, did she start off as green?
She was green and now she's yellow.
And now she's yellow. So,
and she's going the wrong direction.
She's just sassy, that little dog. I mean, she's
getting more comfortable.
Yeah, she is. And that's exactly why that happened. Like when she started off as green, she was with us a week. She just came into our house. She didn't know the routine. And now it's been months since she's been with us, and she's so comfortable. She's super comfortable. So as she got more comfortable, her true, and we talked about this, her true personality started to come out. And now we see that she's, she wants to claim Max. She wants to play all the time. She's high intensity, like she's very vocal. So she requires more attention. But can you guys talk about the color system and how that works?
Yeah, so definitely a lot of people would probably think they see red, yellow, and green, and it's kind of, it's a stoplight. So it's something that we're all familiar of like, hey, red's bad and yellow's okay and green's good. Whereas really what it actually means in our system is just the amount of individual attention, right? So it's not about temperament. It's not about where you're at in the socialization process. It's really about how much time do you need from one-on-one trainer throughout the course of the day, whether that's in the crate, out in the pack, on place, all of those coping mechanisms. How much attention do you require to stay calm, stay neutral, all of these things?
Yeah, we have red dogs that, and obviously, I hate using the word bad or, whatever. It's just that that's our highest level of support that dog needs. But we have red dogs that have great social skills. They have no reactivity with the other dogs, but they're awful in the crate, or they cannot, chill on place. Right. So to us, that dog needs just as much support as a dog like Rusty would, who can't have his leash dropped in the pack. And it doesn't matter to me if you can't have your leash dropped in the pack, if you don't know these coping mechanisms that I need you to rely on if you ever were to get stressed.
Yeah. And you guys don't it's not like they go into the day camp and they go through the motions and it's like, it's crate time. You're just going to stay in this crate until 1:00. Then we'll take you. If that dog is showing, reactivity issues in the crate, if they're showing any kind of signs that they need to work through that, a trainer is going to stay right there with them and work them through the crate. They're going to try to calm them down. They're going to try to, reinforce the crate in a positive way. So it's not like each dog, there's a schedule and they're following the schedule and they just go through the motions and whatever happens. They're just like ignoring the fact that this one dog is retaliating against the crate, or they don't want to stay in place. They're trying to get them to understand each step. So like our dog Bubbles, he is low energy. He typically just flops on the floor and wants to stay there.
It's the hardest thing about him is that
his challenge is like, he wants to just lay there and give up and not do anything. And they're trying to say, no, Bubbles, like we got to keep going.
You have to move for
moving.
2 seconds, dude. Just 2 seconds.
And he requires more attention than Max, that Max is kind of just roaming around and he knows and now he knows how to approach dogs in the right way. He has great social skills. So he doesn't require so much direction.
And he's calm in the crate and he's beautiful in place.
Yeah.
Beautiful on the leash too.
So it's like he's going through the schedule. So he's practicing place, he's practicing crate work, he's practicing, staying calm. He's going with the pack. He's practicing social skills. So he's learned that structure where he doesn't need so much direction where other dogs do. So I feel like it's really important when you're looking for a daycare for your dog where they're working with your dog as an individual and they're allowing your dog to, they're allowing your dog to show who they really are and work them through those issues.
Yeah. And just like with our training philosophy, it's not a recipe-based training, right? We're meeting the dog where they're at. And just because they are green on their first day and they come back and they're screaming the entire day doesn't mean, we're sending them off. We're working through that and seeing where exactly they got uncomfortable.
Well, that's a core difference too, is we don't kick dogs out.
Yeah, exactly.
If your dog growls, fine, great, they're in the right place.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that we're not going to work on it. But exactly what you said, it's not like, okay, bye, you were worse the second day than you were the first. We have a plan for that. I mean, Rusty came for an evaluation and Easton was like, I really don't know that this is like a day. It's not fair to put him in day camp. He needs to be a day trained dog, which is very different than day camp. Day camp, it's a trainer is designated to that dog the entire day. So now Rusty does day trains and Easton works with him. Most of the time it's Easton or you throughout the entire day and gives him breaks and really focuses on him as an individual. We're not going to just be like, okay, bye, if your dog has an issue. We will kick your dog out if you are not working these things at home because it's not fair to your dog.
Yeah.
And
it's not fair.
And it goes back to us, right? That's where do we go wrong, right? A lot of play cares, they'll bring in a dog into a 60 dog pack and say, oh, your dog's rude, inappropriate behavior, we can't deal with them. Whereas we're like, okay, where did that dog get uncomfortable? Where do we need to start at and work from there? Like you said earlier, we're going to be more comfortable with a red dog that we know exactly what their home life is like and kind of, how they're going to react to certain situations and really know what makes them tick. We're going to trust that dog and be more comfortable with that dog in our pack than say a dog that's off leash that we've never met before. It's definitely, and it's not about the dog. I bring that up because it's about our energy. That's the most important thing in that room of, do we feel calm and confident so that our dogs can also feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And with your camps, like, would you say if someone is not finding a structured day camp, they're working all day, they want to get their dogs to, go to a daycare because for that reason, would you suggest them just, dodging the day camp all the way and maybe hiring like a dog walker to come over?
There are plenty of times
because I feel like the day camp, if you put them in the wrong environment, you're teaching your dog bad behaviors without you realizing. And it's kind of like ruining your dog without you realizing they're ruining your dog. Like your dog will go in a way, and after a certain amount of days at this day camp where there's no structure, there's a lot of chaos, there's no direction, your dog's learning bad manners, it can lead to problems where your dog may become like dog reactive or person reactive. So
I mean, I had a session a couple weeks ago with a pitty who looked actually a lot like Bubbles, just black and white. She was great, but she was super dog friendly, like super too dog friendly, right? So, and that she goes to day camp, I think it was twice or 3 times a week because mom works really, really long hours. So the expectation of that dog was, I see another dog, I get to play with the other dog. Now, mom was coming to me for the sibling as well as her, but they sort of fed off of each other, that she could no longer walk them past another dog because one of them thought that everything was a party and that dog meant that they were going to play because that was the expectation. She was learning and practicing that mindset 2 to 3 times a week all day. And then the other dog was like, whoa, that's a big deal. And then there were issues, right? So I think I don't live with you. I don't live with your dog. I don't have your schedule. So at the same time of, yes, I don't think that daycare, a non-structured daycare more than 1 or 2 times a week is ideal. I get to bring my dog to work with me, so I can't talk, right? But for people who work really long hours, there are things like dog walkers, or there are people that do tiny daycares at their house. And if you can find somebody who does that, that way your dog is not around a bunch of different dogs all day, every day. It's most of the time just one person and 5 dogs in their backyard, which I think is great, but once in a while, totally fine. Just like I could go out to a club that's a lie. I could go to like a bar, right? A very busy bar, like every once in a while. But if I did that every weekend, I would be the person fighting somebody at the bar the next weekend.
And it reminds me of almost like, this is kind of an odd comparison, but it goes back to what is beneficial for your dog. When a dog comes into us and they've been pulling their owner on a harness for 2 years, a structured walk for 10 minutes is going to be much more beneficial and probably drain that dog more than an hour walk on that harness of them just pulling you down the street. So just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but do what feels right for you and your dog.
Once again, does not have to be all or nothing. So if it's just, maybe I would suggest, I think the most I've ever done was, let's go down to 1 day a week or once every other week. I don't ever want to take an experience away from your dog, but if I notice that they're practicing that mindset way too much, and there aren't a lot of structured daycares all over the US, it's just not a thing. I mean, there are a couple, and they're amazing, but they're just not a lot of them. And if that's your only option, or your dog just doesn't get exercise because maybe your dog has human reactivity issues and they only get along with people at the daycare, fine. It's better than nothing, but just make it where it works best for you and your situation.
Yeah. And with, when you're looking for a daycare, these are great points that we're making that you can ask them, like, what do they do? And, what do they do typically throughout the day? Like, what does it look like when what do they practice there? How are they advocating for them?
One thing I want to talk about that you just reminded me, cameras. Okay. We don't have cameras. We don't have a way that you can watch your dog throughout the day. We do highly encourage and are totally fine. If you come the first day that you guys dropped the dogs off, you came upstairs, we have a huge window, and you can watch your dog get introduced to the pack. We don't have a camera system because we don't want you watching your dog all day. We want you to unattach from your dog. It's not healthy for you to be sitting there watching your dog the entire day. Now, that being said, right? That being said, your daycare should be transparent with you. So they should offer you things like, yeah, absolutely. Come and watch. I have this window. You can stay for as long as you'd like, or whatever, whatever it is. And they should be telling you, hey, we're having problems with your dog mounting or your dog barking or whatever. You need to be working on those things at home, or, we're actually getting to a point where we can't have your dog here. They should be transparent with you. But I would not say cameras are a make or break, because I think that they're often used badly by the owner. Drop your dog off, and if you don't trust the place that you're dropping them off, then don't drop them off.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you have to really trust who you're handling your dog to. When we first went, like you said, hey, come up, watch, see how how Bubbles is getting introduced. Every time I get there, I can see what's going on. I know everything there is to know about the camp. So I know where they go, where they're playing all day.
And I post a ton of stuff online for that reason. I want to be transparent.
And when they came home, like after the first day, we got reports on them, like exactly what happened that day, what you guys saw. You pulled me aside, told me what I needed to do. So there was like full transparency. And for me, that's amazing. Why would I want to watch my dog on a camera all day if when I pick them up, I'm not getting any feedback? I mean, for me, feedback from a trainer, feedback from the person that's with my dog all day is way better than me looking at a camera to see if they're comfortable or not. That's, if you have that question in your head, then don't take them. Hire one person that will come and walk your dog during the day for you to help alleviate them, because that's way better than dropping them off at a daycare where you feel like they're going to have fun or whatnot, but that's completely different experience for your dog.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I think another thing is the reason that I don't like cameras is because a lot of people, my cousin, when she dropped her dog off at a daycare, we were on vacation and she was showing me a video and she was like, she's sitting in the corner. I'm like, put the phone away. She's sitting in a corner because you didn't socialize her when she was younger. You dropped her off at a daycare that you don't know about. And she's a little dog and there's a high school student watching her, right? They don't know. They just don't know.
And that's why I love the center and the business we set up, is because being transparent and honest like that, was hard before, because in the chaos of a 50 dog pack, if you slightly kind of insinuate that your dog's not having the greatest time, then they're like, did my dog get attacked? And it's, people care about their dogs, obviously.
Or why didn't you post pictures of my dog today? Yeah, what were they doing? Are they not happy there? Or they whined when they came in the door or whatever? Do they not enjoy their time there? We used to get a lot of that because we couldn't be transparent with them. We didn't make the rules. And
our philosophy is all about being on the same page with our dogs. So the fact that I was, in a 50 dog pack, I wasn't on the same page with anyone. But now that I'm, from the time that the first dog walks in the door, I'm on the same page with that owner and that dog, and can say whatever I need to communicate to them to get on that same page, because that's the foundation we've laid. That's the expectation we've laid for our clients and our dogs, is that we're going to tell you what we think. And if, you don't really like that information, you don't have to take it to heart, but it's from our experience.
We used to have to take muzzles off before we took pictures, right? Because we couldn't post any pictures of dogs in muzzles or e-collars or anything like that. And that's been the biggest difference between now. Well, not the biggest difference by any means, but it's been a relief of, hey, your dog needs a muzzle, and your dog is actually going to do a lot better with a muzzle in the pack, and we're going to be a lot more confident with them. So we muzzled your dog today. We're working on these steps, and we expect you to actually, not only are we doing it, we expect you to muzzle train at home, right? Yeah. So it's been a huge relief doing that. But what you said too of who's out there matters. The ratio of dog to people matters, or dogs to people matters. So like before it was 50, and it's very common for daycares to have 50 dogs to 2 people. That's not safe. That's not okay. Regardless of who's out there, or you could have
50 chihuahuas.
Yeah, 2 people that know everything in the world about dogs and 50 chihuahuas. It's still not safe. It's actually probably less safe with 50 chihuahuas.
Yeah, definitely.
But who is out there matters. So even our day camp assistants know about dogs. They aren't just like extra hands. They're not just somebody. Yes, they are younger. Well, Riley is younger and works half day with us, but she now knows about dogs. I can confidently hand her Bubbles and have her work Bubbles because that's my goal. Nobody is stepping into that pack without knowing about dogs. Even Sarah, our director, she's worked with me with dogs longer than any of you guys have. So she absolutely knows about dogs, but somebody calls out, she has to cover a shift. She's in the pack, and nobody is less safe because of that. Nobody's less safe if Riley's out there, Brandon's out there, because everybody knows about dog behavior, and there is always a trainer in that room, always.
And we're on the same page too.
So. Yeah, and that's pretty big because with our dogs, like when we started we don't necessarily need day camp for them. Like it's not a day where we can't take them out or they are at home stuck in a crate all day, but we like to take them so they can get that structured day camp where they're learning leash work, they're learning place, they're practicing those good behaviors. So I feel like if you're looking for a day camp where it is an investment, it is money out of your pocket, you're taking your time to drive your dog there, look for one that's going to teach them good behaviors, where you're going to walk out of there with a reward. That reward is not just a day where your dog got to potty and stay out all day. It's a day where your dog actually learned some really healthy skills where you're going to see improvement in a few months. Like our dogs, like I said, go once a week, sometimes every other week, but we have any like backward progress except with Cinnamon because she's a she's a sassy girl.
Cinnamon definitely got overlooked by all of us. There's been a lot of boy problems.
Yeah, she's the only girl we have. Yeah. So it's the only sassy girl we have in our pack. So, it's fine. But she is, with our dogs, every time they leave day camp, they're coming out better. Rusty, better every time.
Different dog.
Oh my God. Easton shared a video of him laying in the crate. Like she was like, he's doing his best impersonation of a puddle.
Oh my,
I died at that video, like at that picture. Cause he was like literally like melted on the floor. And I'm like, is this Rusty on a crate laying down?
Doing pack place.
And doing pack place?
Like dogs all around him. That dog could not get within a foot of another dog the first day that he was there. I mean, more than a foot. He couldn't get within 4 or 5 feet of another dog. Yeah. I mean, without trying to go after them. And now he's calmly resting with, dogs all over him. Not all over him, but in place where it's around him. Yeah.
And I would say, behavior is that's what we're all about. So that's probably the biggest difference is we'd have, if we had any working breeds in our pack in a 50 dog pack, they were going home more amped than they came because they're experience chaos all day. If we're in a club all day, we're not going to go home and be like, we're going to be tired, but we're going to be scrambled.
Yeah.
So we have seen a absurd difference in the behavior walking out of our building since switching to a structured daycare.
Yeah. I think if you don't have the option of a structured daycare, and many people do not, but maybe you do have to bring your dog to your daycare that you've been going to for whatever reason. A couple things that I have normally, or I've suggested to people is spend some time with your dog outside of like in the parking lot of that daycare. So walking them back and forth before you even go in the door. So then that way you're sort of taking a little bit of the intensity off. And you're also practicing, look, there's other dogs going in the building that have nothing to do with you. You should still be walking with me. So making sure that you are either working on or preventing any sort of issues that you might have with relevancy based on that, on, kind of this party atmosphere, or when you walk in there, ask them if it's okay if you just sit in the lobby for a little while with your dog, having them watch other dogs go back, one after another. And your dog is just required to sit next to you and just kind of be calm and observe. I mean, I encourage people to do that at our day camp if they're having trouble with relevancy with their dog around other dogs, but especially at other daycares. Those are ways that you can make that that experience a little bit more productive than it is. There's always ways that you can sort of tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, and with the structured day camps, like I said, it is an investment for you and your dog, because if once you find that, you are helping them learn good behavioral skills. But once you are in that environment with your dog, advocate for them, ask questions, look around. If they're not willing to answer your question, if they're not willing to show you where your dog's going to be exactly, what the schedule is, who the people are that are working there, don't leave your dog there. It would be awesome if our dogs could talk and tell us.
No, it wouldn't. Not my dog.
Just talking our heads all day, whining. But I mean, that's why it's important to know body language for your dog, at least like as a dog owner, for you to learn the basic body language so you can know the feelings that your dogs are having when they walk into that day camp. Are they scared? What's going on? Or if you do look through the camera, how are they doing?
Yeah, I think don't overthink it though, because I have gotten a lot of clients who they're like, well, my dog, when I pick up the leash now this morning, or they wouldn't get in the car and they used to love going in the car, and those are most of the time, probably every time I've ever been told that, those dogs love day camp. I don't necessarily know what's going on at home that's making that dog do that. But don't assume that your dog not wanting to get in the car means that your dog knows where you're going and hates where you're going, right? Yeah. It could be something else. It could be anything else.
But we humanize dogs so much that then we think, oh, they know what today is, and they know what time it is, and know
sometimes they do know where they're going. But I think that speaks to a bigger issue of people don't expect us or daycares to be transparent with you. I will let you know, and I have let clients know, your dog is as good as they are going to get, right? They have the coping mechanisms. It's not like they're being reactive. It's not like there's any issues. We're not having any issues with your dog. They're just not having a good time, right? They just don't enjoy it. I have told people that. I've called people and I've told them, especially at the 50 dog pack daycare, I have called them and I said, it's just too much for them. They're not doing a bad job. It's just too much. And I think people don't expect that level of transparency because I think people look at, these business owners as somebody who, regardless of if the dog is having a good time, that's still money coming in the door. That's not me. I can't watch a dog not have a good time all day. And I think that's another big thing is I'm the owner of the business and I'm a trainer. So it's not like I'm just sitting here like raking in the cash. I'm not. I'm doing this because I care about what I do. And I want these dogs to, maybe they're not going to enjoy every step of the way because it's going to be stressful. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I do want it to be productive. And I do know when to call it with a lot of these guys.
And that's something I hope our clients feel too, is that we genuinely care about this every step of the way in our day camp day. We're progressing it and making it a beneficial activity. So if the thing your dog struggles with the most is picking you up at the end of the day, we're going to spend however long we need to focus on that, because what is all the learning they did before that for if they see you and it goes all out the window?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge thing though, is coming to us. There are people that come to us and don't understand necessarily the level of commitment that we are going to ask not only from the dog, but from the human. So there are Shadow, our boy Shadow. So before he passed a few months ago, he had cancer and he struggled a lot with being able to walk up to his owners at the end of the day, meaning he freaked out. I mean, freaked out. Yeah. And so what we did is one of us, most of the time it was Jillian or Easton, I think, that did this, that would start working him around 5. We would know when they would normally pick up. They'd start working him around 5. They'd go towards the lobby, away from the lobby, towards the lobby, away from the lobby. And Shadow's owners had to sit there in the lobby for sometimes 20, 30 minutes before we were able to hand him off. But that's the commitment level that we expect from our clients. Like, if you're going to bring your dog to us, we are going to be working on a lot of these issues that we see, and we need your patience. We need your commitment. We need the work from you too, or there's no reason for us to do this. And it's just kind of whiplash for your dog every time they come because you're not working on this at home, or you're not willing to take the time. Now, obviously, if they had ever told us, hey, we've got to run somewhere tonight, like, fine, I totally get that. But they were patiently waiting there, and they would get there early, and they even offered one time, should we come in the middle of the day so you can practice this again too, and just sit here? And it's that level of commitment that we're like, okay, we're seeing progress, not just because of what we're doing, but because of what you guys are doing at home. That's where it really clicks.
And that goes back to, we can't be more committed to our client. And people may hear that and be like, isn't your only job to be more committed than the client? And no, because that's where frustration spurs, and we just want what's best for this dog.
Yeah.
So if you're happy with where your dog's at, I can't force you to change your relationship, but I am going to make some suggestions as to how you could improve it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have a whole episode, I think, coming up on the life of a dog trainer, because I get asked all the time, how did you get into this world? Or, what are some pros and cons? And if you could be doing anything else, what would you be doing? But it's the hardest thing in this job is I cannot be more committed than the owner. I can't. If you're not going to put in the work, as much as I want to put in that work, I can't, because it's not fair to the dog. It's not fair to me, and it's not fair to you. So, there's a lot of people that originally, when we first opened, attempted to use us as like your average daycare. And it didn't work out for them because the dog was struggling every single day with us. And we would call and say, okay, how are we doing with crate training at the house? And they would say, okay, well, we can't do it at the house, or we're in an apartment, or really haven't worked on place work, or whatever it is. I went back to using the harness, even though, my dog walks really, really well in the slip lead. It's just easier to put on or something. And that's where we will call it, not just for our sake, for our mental health sake, but for your dog's sake. It's not fair to drop your dog off every single day when we're asking something very different than what you are asking at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think today we really covered a lot with different types of daycares and what you can look for in a daycare when you are searching for one in your area. Again, if you'd like to look more into how the structured daycare is completed, you can go to Mirror Image Canine, look into their social media, because they share lots and lots of videos of how that looks like throughout the day. And also on their website, they have more information about that day camp. So if you're not in the area, you can at least use that as a reference. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about the life of a dog trainer, and Easton is going to join us. So we're going to go more into what that means to be, if you're thinking about becoming a dog trainer, if you are looking for a dog trainer, I think that's going to be a really helpful one. So thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, and don't forget,
practice makes progress.
Good job,
all right, Connor.
Good job. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Think Like a Dog Podcast, and follow at Mirror Image Canine for training tips. If you have any questions, please reach out to us via email at info@thinklikeadogpodcast.com.